Hello. I wanted to do one final review of the Hero Alliance deck with the Elemental Heroes. I did do a deck review with this kind of towards the beginning of, I think it was around April, when I just started playing with the deck, and now after playing with it through the KC Cup, through getting to King of Games, I changed the deck a little bit, and I wanted to talk through the changes I made and other observations I had along the way, and do a more kind of fleshed out deck review. So with that, I'll jump right in. I'm not going to go through every single card. I might just highlight some of the changes that I made and the ways that I viewed the deck and how they changed as my experience grew with it. So I don't think the monsters changed at all. 3 Stratos, 2 Liquid, 2 Blazeman, 3 Elemental Hero Neos, although I did add the, the shiny ones, the prismatic ones, because obviously those are just cool. Now, one thing I added first off was a Summoner's Art. Because Elemental Hero Neos is so important to this deck, it is a very important to have. So, before there were 3 cards, each of them that you could draw to have it in your hand, and could use it as your normal summon. But adding Summoner's Art makes one more way to get it off of your opening hand, and, just the likelihood of being able to activate the skill for Hero Alliance gets increased. So having one, I think, is a really good move, and benefited me really well as I had it there. The other change, other big one, was to add double summon. And this improved the consistency of the deck, which was the one issue I have, and the one thing I'll say as a weakness when I go over kind of strengths of weaknesses in a minute here. But what this did is, so like, we have 3 Stratos, right? So if I only have a Stratos in my hand first turn, as far as monsters go, I can summon Stratos, get from my deck Elemental Hero Neos, play double summon, and then summon Elemental Hero Neos. And from there, like if I have a fusion or if I have anything else, I can, use the effects of both those monsters. Otherwise, there's a number of situations where, like, if Stratos is the only monster in your hand, even if you have 2 of them, you have to draw one and you can use the effect, but then you can get no other monsters in the field for the rest of that turn. And if you don't get the right spells or traps to defend yourself, then you're going to be out of luck. Your opponent's going to have, a board to just be able to attack and possibly win the duel. I know that happened to me a good number of times during the KC Cup, and that level of consistency really hurts a deck that you're looking to be top tier with. I may have changed around a little bit here. So I have 2 Ice Dragon's Prisons and a Crackdown. A little bit subjective with the limited 3 cards here, but they work nicely, and if you prefer like evac instead, that's totally fine. And I think the other one to highlight is I wasn't using Nightmare Phoenix too often, so I changed it out for Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, because you do have Stratos, 3 of them, 2 Liquids, and 2 Blazeman. So for all of those level 4 monsters, and especially given Liquid's effects where you can, when it's normal summon, take 1 level 4 lower hero monster from the graveyard and special summon it, that is going to give you 2 level 4 monsters in the field right away. And with that, can go right into a level 4 Xyz, and there's situations where this card saved me. And I wasn't finding like a lack of ability to get rid of my opponent's back row, because I do have an MST, do have a Cosmic Cyclone, and then obviously Stratos can use this effect to destroy cards in your opponent's back row too. So all of that to say, made a few changes that I think improved consistency, really, but didn't take away from the deck by adding like too many more cards to draw through, anything like that. So overall, strengths are everything. Strengths of this deck, I mean, it's very, very powerful. The monsters can very easily win you a duel because of their just overall sheer power. Like very, very often you want to get out Sunrise, you can draw another Miracle Fusion and get out a second Sunrise, and then have other monster cards that are very powerful, each with effects, and can just roll through an opponent. With especially Sunrise, when another hero attacks, then you can destroy a card in your opponent's side of the field automatically. That is just ridiculous. But in addition to that, the cards are not very disruptive. I'm sorry, the monster cards specifically are not very disruptive, but that is why we have the spells and the traps that we do to be disruptive there. So first off, Super Polymerization is kind of broken, honestly, with the ability of Hero Alliance. So if you can get Elemental Hero Neos out in the field, you can activate the ability and put Super Polymerization in your hand. You can fusion summon using cards on any side of the field, so yours or your opponent. So you can use Elemental Hero Neos with almost any monster your opponent's going to put in the field. I think with the exception of a water monster, or technically a divine one too. But you can just steal their card, and they can't activate a card in response and stop it. So like I had it happen with Six Samurai Shiin, which can stop a spell or trap from being activated, but not this time, which is kind of heartbreaking for my opponent, quite honestly. And part of the reason this works is because of the extra deck that we have. So we have a light monster, we have a wind monster, we have a fire, we have, these two don't really count for this, but we have an earth, and we have a dark. So there is no water monster for the elemental heroes that works within this deck, so like if you're playing against a water Xyz deck, you're out of luck for super polymerization, really. But yeah, that is like number one disruption and defense overall, where like any powerful monster your opponent brings out, if it's the Requiem Xyz Dragons from Phantom Knights, if it's whatever, super polymerization can be game breaking there. But then even on top of that, MST and Galaxy Cyclone to get rid of, or Cosmic Cyclone to get rid of the back row there, 2 Book of Moons, 2 Ice Dragon's Prison, and a Crackdown. I mean, there was a number of decks or duels that I played where like those cards just kept me alive and stopped anything going my way defensively, and made it great there. So incredibly balanced, powerful, can get rid of back row, can get very strong attack points, can destroy cards, can do a bit of everything, and still be fun to play in the meanwhile there. So strengths is kind of everything. I would say the one weakness being consistency. Now, I'm not saying it's an inconsistent deck, but I outlined the situation previously there, where if you have Stratos and you don't have like anything else like a fusion card and another hero in your hand, you may have to play Stratos and, you know, bring, using its effect, another hero monster to your hand, but won't be able to do anything to bring out another monster that turn. So you're left with a fairly weak monster in attack position, and depending on what spells or traps are in your hand, you know, you may have protection, you may not, but I bricked more often than you want to of a deck of like this tier and kind of capability there. So it's not an inconsistent deck, but for a deck as strong as it is, and if you're looking for something to go really far within like the KC Cup, you need something that's a little bit more consistent. But I would say overall, like that is the one area that would be as a weakness, and I'll cover it again in a minute when I go through the kind of the ratings I gave. But I think with there's sometimes like the way you play a certain situation is a little bit subjective. Like when you're activating Hero Alliance, you're not sure if you go for Super Polymerization or if you go for regular Polymerization or Miracle Fusion, depending on the situation. Like if you go for Miracle Fusion, then you're going to be able to bring out Sunrise. You can bring out, when you do that, you get another Miracle Fusion, can get very, very offensive, right? Like you can get a lot of cards with strong attack points out in the field. But if you can't attack that turn and finish the duel, then maybe Super Polymerization is better to bring out because it's defensive. It can get rid of really, really powerful monster in your opponent's side of the field. There's going to be situations where you're just not sure which one to do, and the only way to find out is to play it out and see how it goes. So, you know, there's a lot of decks, like with Phantom Knights, for example, there's really only one way that you're going to be playing it. I don't always enjoy those because I think they're just too, like, by the book. They're too just thoughtless, and you're not, you know, demonstrating skill by doing it. But this is the opposite here, where it's almost too open-ended at times and can backfire. So again, not like a big weakness, but you know, you'll find out in hindsight, like, crap, I should have made that play a little bit differently, and you'll lose a few duels because of it. I probably happens to everyone that plays the deck. But two minor weaknesses, and with that, I'll go into the ratings here. So overall strength of the deck, I give a 4.5 out of 5. Very, very strong. I did well in the KC Cup, or well enough. You know, I got to King of Games after the KC Cup very easily. Not a ton of fight, and I've walked through opponents, quite honestly. So I'm happy to retire the deck and play a new deck this month to just showcase something new to, you know, my subscribers and viewers here. But strong deck, if you're looking to get to King of Games for the first time, would highly recommend. You know, it is a harder deck to get together. So I just talked about consistency, so I made that pretty clear of the reasons where it could improve. Basically, if you can't get Elemental Hero Neos out in the first turn, and you can't get Super Polymerization, you don't have the right protection in the back row, could lose there, and you just kind of never had a chance, but not a huge issue. Like, you can still King of Games the deck very simply, and we'll move on. Ease of playing, 4 out of 5. I think most times the plays to make are pretty clear, or if there's multiple plays that you can make and still would win there. But again, as I mentioned a minute ago, there are times where the only reason I'm not giving a high rating here, where like you're not sure which one of two or more plays to make, and you can pick wrong, and it's not because you didn't know something necessarily, or like just made a bad decision in the moment based on the information you had. You made the right decision. It's just you don't know what's in your opponent's hand. You don't know what they're going to play and how they're going to play it, and you know you can guess wrong based on that stuff there. So ease of playing is a 4, but still like not going to be a huge issue. Now the difficulty to obtain I would say is a really the barrier to playing this deck. It is a hard deck to get. I'm putting it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't like giving 5s on these lists because like that is like the highest you can get, but I think this one would be close to a 5. You have 3 UR Stratoses that are coming from one box. You have 2 Liquids SRs that are coming from a box. You're gonna have Blazeman. I think that's from a starter deck. There's a lot of ways to get Elemental Hero Neos, but you have to buy the bundle for Super Poly. You have to level up Bakura in Dark Side of Dimensions for Summoner's Art. MST, you have 2 Book of Moons, Miracle Fusion. Like these are all coming from different boxes here, and you have to do a little bit of everything to get these different cards. IDP right now is only in selection boxes, and same with Crackdown. All of these cards are difficult to get, but then you get into the extra deck. And with the extra deck, like all of these hero monsters are coming from different boxes because the hero monsters are constantly getting more powerful or more just options for you know, cards that come into the game. So you basically have to run through like all of those decks. So we're talking about Shining, we're talking about Great Tornado, Nova Master, Sunrise, at least 2 of, Gaia, which some people bring in and out, but Escarado, and then Dark Rebellion Dragons from a different box too. So that is the biggest barrier to playing this deck. I think if it was easier to obtain, more people would play it for sure. But all of that comes down to the fun to play. Giving it a 4 out of 5. The only reason I think it's not higher too is Super Poly is a little bit cheesy. I think just some of these cards in here are so damn powerful that like I don't always feel like I'm out skilling an opponent, but at the same time, it is fun to play a deck that you have some flexibility with. You can summon different monsters, you can bring them all together, and I think just kind of the nostalgia factor of the anime decks definitely gives a boost here. You know, maybe a 4.5 on the fun, but if it's something that demonstrated a little more skill, I think it would be higher, but I don't think it's like an incredibly cheesy deck either. So this is my review of the Hero Alliance deck for Elemental Heroes. Post me playing with it, I'm going to retire at 4 now, but you know, if I have a situation where I have to win a duel, this would probably be a deck that I would consider going to in the metagame right now, especially given the skill for Hero Alliance did not get nerfed recently. So let me know your thoughts on the deck below. Is it something that you've played against a lot, hate it, love it? And if you enjoyed the video, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Going to have a lot more content like this coming up soon. So thank you so much for watching.